everybody. Hello. It's Amy here with the Austin Common, and we are doing a little impromptu live session on this Friday to fill you all in on what's been going on with City Council. Welcome everyone who's joining. This is hopefully going to be just a quick news update for you all to give you a better idea of what has been going on with City Council. It's been a busy few weeks. We've had winter storm and issues with our power. We had a city manager ended up getting fired. We've had a lot of things with the police contract. And so today we're going to do a quick little update for y'all about what's going on with all of that, give you all the info you need to know. We are hopefully going to be joined here in a minute by our guest, Council Member Jose Tito Vela, represents District 4. I'm just waiting a few more minutes, and he's going to jump on and we will fill you all in on all the details. We've also done quite a few posts on these things individually in the past few weeks, so you can go ahead and check on those on our feed. We did a post on the Austin Energy power outages. We did a post about what's been going on with the police contract, so you can check those out as well. And I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get Council Member Vela added here. Give us a sec. All right, and I see Council Member Vela maybe has joined. If you want to click that little button at the bottom to request to join us, then I can add you in. Okay, I hear from Council members trying to join, so we'll give it another minute here. I think I can. There we go. See if that works. Okay, again, so as we're waiting for the council member to join us, we've got posts on all of these things that you can check out there. Another big issue that's been going on at City Hall, and I know that City Council took a vote on yesterday, is things around I-35. There's been big plans to expand I-35 through Austin. TxDOT has been involved with that. That's our state transportation department. And we actually just released a new podcast episode that includes Councilmember Vela on our podcast feed. We published that yesterday. So if you want to go check out the Austin Common Radio Hour, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you can go ahead and check that out and get a bit better understanding of what's going on with the I-35 project, because there's a big opportunity right now for the public to get involved and join. So there's a virtual public hearing and a whole bunch of different ways for folks to get involved. All right, and I see we're still having some technical difficulties with the council member. Let's give us another minute here. Let's try and invite him again. All right, we'll just send another invite. There we go.
Hello.
Hi.
So sorry. I was trying to do it from my desktop and I could not get it figured out.
No worries. Yeah, I think it usually does make it. The phone always works better.
Yeah, no joke. I jumped on the phone. I was like, I'm going to abandon the desktop and just jump on the phone. So I've got, anyway, happy to join y'all, and sorry for being a few minutes late.
No worries. This is perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to catch us up. Again, everyone's Councilmember Tito Vela, District 4. And I want to just give people a quick update, because I have to say it's been a busy few weeks for Austin City Council. I thought we could just run down a few of the big votes you all have taken recently, let people know quickly, give them an update, what's going on, things like that. So I thought maybe we could start with winter storm and Austin Energy. That's been a big issue, obviously, and I know that council has had a few meetings recently, had an Austin Energy oversight meeting, getting some updates. Just tell the public, where are we at now with that, of trying to figure out how we can do better next time? Because that's been, I know, a lot of the big topic of conversation.
Absolutely. We should be getting an after action report from Austin Energy very soon here, looking at what went right, what went wrong. And from my perspective, also, again, I wasn't here. I wasn't on city council when we had Winter Storm Uri, but there was an after action report done then with recommendations on what we should do the next time this happens. And so that's really I want to see, what exactly did we learn? Did we apply the things that we learned? And if not, why not? Very important considerations that I'm looking forward to getting into. The other day at our Austin Energy briefing, I think on this last Tuesday, Austin Energy committed to getting a study done here in this next kind of budget year, which is coming up very quick, of the cost and the feasibility of burying power lines. That's going to be a big number. It's going to be a long-term and difficult kind of task, but in terms of what we can do to be more resilient and more prepared for the next event, I think it's crucial. And I was, half joking, but honestly serious about it. There's a number of neighborhoods in District 4 that would be happy to be the guinea pigs for, burying power lines. And I know it's going to be a big headache. There's going to be folks in backyards and, flower beds and chicken coops and all that are going to have to get, moved. But long term, given the number of ice storms that we've had in the last few years, given kind of climate change and ongoing concerns about that, thankfully this didn't hit us, but the recent kind of another, I guess, polar vortex, I don't know what it was, but apparently like it's going to snow in LA, or it has been snowing in LA. I just, we have to prepare for these kind of events because people are so dependent nowadays on electricity. They have medical devices. It's so critical for our communications. It's just so critical in so many ways, that our heating, a lot of people don't have heating options if the electricity goes down. So we really need to harden our grid, and I was happy to see Austin Energy talk about that. So ready to go with that. And that kind of dovetails into, we have a new city manager now. I don't think, again, I've been pretty outspoken on the city manager and my thoughts. And one of the reasons that I think council lost faith was because of the response, the more recent response. Again, I don't feel like we were learning from our prior experiences, and that's a problem. We have to learn as an organization, and we have to get better as an organization as time goes on and as the same things happen again and again. And we can do that. I look at about, ACL, South by Southwest, where we have these major events. We're better prepared for them as time goes on, as we do them again and again. The winter storm and our reaction to crisis like that is one of the metrics that we need to be able to evaluate ourselves on and continue to improve.
Yeah. So, we're talking about here, hopefully getting from Austin Energy soon an after action report that might also be able to help give some context and compare what are new things we can do and what are things that we've already talked about doing but haven't been done yet, or what's the status on some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, getting the numbers, like you mentioned, that during the winter, there's a lot of talk about burying these power lines, and Austin Energy said it's going to be expensive, but they didn't really have exact numbers. They hadn't done the research in a while. So hopefully we'll be getting real numbers, like a meaningful conversation, I guess, or discussion about if that's something we want as a community. And then, you lead into the city manager conversation. So city council did take the vote to fire the manager, Spencer Cronk. We now have an interim manager. Can you give a bit of update there next for our city? We have this interim, but I assume there's going to be a process forward for a new city manager, and that's a pretty lengthy one, right?
My understanding excuse me, is that it's going to be at least a 6 to 12 month process. I believe hiring Spencer Cronk was more like an 18-month process. I hope that's not where we are. I hope that it will be a quicker process than that. And but we're about to get that started. I believe that the first step would be to hire a firm that will then kind of guide us and kind of contact eligible candidates and encourage them to apply and kind of review information with us and all that. And I would expect to see that on a council agenda in the not too distant future. I will say that I know that City Manager Jesus Garza has been employed for what, a week? But he's a breath of fresh air. He has done this before. He's very experienced. I don't really think he comes in with any kind of agenda or axe to grind or anything like that. He's just come in and so far in my interactions with this, and I think I can speak for a handful of my colleagues too, in their interactions with him, he's been very, professional, wants to help this council accomplish its goals. So far, so good. And I'm excited to have kind of a veteran hand on the wheel, even if it's on an interim basis. But, in our conversations, the goal would be to, not for him to just be kind of a placeholder, but we want him to address the issues so that when he does leave, he's handing the organization off in a better place than he found it. And hopefully that incoming permanent city manager will be able to just jump in and really get going. I know one of the things that we've already talked about and he's already, looking at is the 911 vacancies. It's frustrating from my perspective because when I took office in February of 2022, that was an ongoing conversation among city councils. It's a conversation that predated, me coming on board.
Right. There was an audit done in 2020 about high-level vacancies, lower response times.
And there was a council resolution passed, basically directing the city manager. I don't remember the details, but essentially, do what it takes to, fill the seats. I mean, I think at the time we were paying like $19 an hour. We boosted that to $23 an hour. I believe. Pay what it takes to fill those seats. They're just such critical operations that we cannot have them vacant. And it's just disappointing that it's been, 12 months and we have not made any meaningful gains on filling those vacancies. I know that the city manager Garza came in with that as the top of the list in terms of priorities. And I hope to see some movement on that issue, relatively soon. But that's where we need, we can do policy, we can kind of adopt this policy, adopt that policy, but ultimately the manager is responsible for those kinds of operational details, like making sure that we are fully staffed at certain critical areas. If the manager needs something from us in terms of budget, in terms of authority, in terms of a council resolution, then we're happy to provide that. But we just expect our city manager to go and get that done and not to have this kind of, like I said, I don't feel like we had moved forward on that issue in a year. And that was disappointing.
Right. That's where the city manager is responsible for hiring, firing, recruiting all of our employees, and a lot of that people might see it, watchers, whenever it passes an ordinance, it always says direct the city manager to. So that's where some of the breakdown gets, like you all are setting policy and passing it over that city manager to implement. And it seems like on some of these issues that has not gone the way.
And that's correct. And I think we on council also have a responsibility to be realistic about what we're asking our city manager to do. We can't just be throwing stuff at him or her willy-nilly and stacking way too much on their plate. So we have to be conscious of the limited resources that our departments and our staffing has, even though we're a huge organization. But that said, the city manager also has to be able to prioritize those kinds of things. And again, the core operational details, to me, the boring kind of, guts of the city stuff, 911 call center, clean water, flowing electricity, we have to get that buttoned up to where I never want to have those conversations again. You know what I mean? Just the water flows and it's clean, the electricity turns on, you call 911 and someone quickly answers a phone. We have to get those buttoned up and just absolutely meet those basic responsibilities to our citizens. And so I think that's, at the moment, just getting that button down is my focus.
Yeah. And I saw we are getting a few questions on there. I saw someone ask about renters' rights. We'll ask that in a few minutes here. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. And I did see that come up. I want to talk on policing real quick, though, as kind of the final big, you guys have been doing a lot lately, but the other big decision news. Give people just a where we are with that. Just, if people have been seeing just the headlines but aren't really understanding, just give us a little brief up. Where are we at?
The basic place where we're at right now is there's two issues. I think council wants to see a level of oversight and accountability for the police department, a very high level of oversight and accountability for the police department. We have a petition, a vote, two petitions actually, coming up in May on exactly that issue. One of the petitions, it's going to be the A on the ballot. It's going to be A and B. The A petition is from the Criminal Justice Reform Advocates, and it would mandate a very, very high level of oversight and accountability for the police. Prop B is actually a petition sponsored by the Austin Police Association that would undermine some of the requirements for oversight and accountability. That's really the question right now. I think we're asking for a level of oversight and accountability that the Police Association is not comfortable with, but it is good policy. It is where we need to go. We've had too many deaths and injuries at the hands of the police. And again, I know that's a tough job. I know that's a tough call, but we just have, in this last year, the city council has paid out about $20 million in police settlements. And we have multiple other new cases that are moving forward. And given that situation, it's a moral issue. It's a policy issue. It's also now becoming a financial and economic issue for the city. We have to have police that are de-escalating situations and not, resorting to, deadly force unless it's absolutely necessary. And again, I know how tough of a call that is, but we have to move our kind of a training and our practices in that direction. So,
and at the time, then we're dealing with the contract, right? So it's I know City Council vote to allow basically that to be meaningful, to matter by doing a 1-year contract extension. Mm-hmm. The Austin Police Association walked away from the negotiating table, said they were interested in that, but yesterday you all passed an important resolution on that because there is this fear of we don't want to lose more environment.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's a good summary. We want to give time for the voters before entering into any long-term contract that kind of firms up all of those details. Let's hear what the voters have to say in May. That's very important. So that's why we've been pushing for either a short-term contract that allows a May petition to happen, and then we can incorporate whatever the results of that election are into a longer-term contract. Unfortunately, the police association, that's not the direction they wanted to go. It looks like they prefer to just go out of contract. That could result in your kind of just patrol officer losing substantial pay and benefits. And so what City Council did yesterday unanimously is to say that We don't want our officers to lose pay and benefits. We want to keep their pay and benefits steady. And we also directed the city manager to figure out what else can we do to recruit and retain officers in the event that we do go out of contract with them. And the contract deadline is March 31st. So we want to make sure that we are maintaining the level of patrol officers we have. It's about 1,500 officers that the city of Austin has. We don't want that to dip down any lower. So we want to add financial incentives to make sure that folks stay on board. With the details, let's see what the city manager brings back to us I would expect that in, a couple of weeks here.
Yeah. And then one more question on this, because I know there's been some confusion, especially over this past weekend. What is the connection, in your view, between 911 wait times and police and, this police contract conversation? Because that came up, right? There was these questions where people feel like, I think there was some confusion around long 911 wait times and that being associated with police contract negotiations. Do you want to just kind of give people a little context there?
Yeah, honestly, there's really not a connection between those two. Our 911 call takers and our police dispatchers are not a part of the union, of the police union. Their salary and benefits and everything is really kind of separate and apart from the whole conversation. So whether we entered into a contract or didn't enter into a contract with the police, or whatever the case may be, that really doesn't affect our emergency call center. It's a completely, separate, independent operation. Honestly, I mean, the shortages, the employees, the staffing issues that we've seen at the call center also, predate. Like I said, they go back a year and a half or longer. When the police were under contract and there weren't any other issues. So I know it can get confusing for the public. I mean, honestly, it gets confusing for even, folks that are intimately involved in these conversations. But they are not, related issues. One really shouldn't affect the other. I will say I've heard this again anecdotally, although I bet, some of the viewers and folks following could comment on this better than I could, but a lot of, like, for example, a lot of the tech companies have folks that do call support here in town. They can do it, work from home, and they're getting like $25 an hour, $27 an hour to do basically, tech support for, some kind of software company. And anecdotally, I've heard that we're losing, 911 call center takers to these other, software companies because they get, more pay and they can work from home. So I think that's going to be one of the factors. Obviously we have a limited amount of money to work with, but we've got to be competitive with our salaries in order to staff those positions. And that's why, like, if Apple and these other kind of software companies are paying their people $25 an hour to take calls, I guess that's what we got to do. Again, I'll leave that to the city manager and the police chief and supervisors of the call center, but we've got to do what we've got to do to fill those positions.
Yeah, there are a few jobs more, less. That's like the most important.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay,
so before we close, we get to that question that was asked there. And again, thank you all for giving suggestions. Someone had asked about renters' rights. Do you want to share a little update? What's the latest on rights that City Council passed recently?
So there's been a lot of movement on renters' rights. We have passed an ordinance that makes it crystal clear that renters have the right to organize kind of a tenants unions, tenants association, and we're hoping that will be of great help, especially in apartment complexes that are, let's say, frequent flyers on our code violation, with our code department. We need to better address code violations, especially at low-income apartment complexes. We have kind of a system set up to do that, but we have folks that have been on our list as frequent code violators for multiple years, and that's not acceptable. We've got to figure out how to kind of make sure that the most serious violations, the ones that the tenants want fixed,
Yeah.
are prioritized. And so I think that moving toward a system where there are tenants unions, especially at like larger low-income apartment complexes, that way we have kind of a liaison to work with, and we have kind of a group of folks. So that's a real big step toward tenants' rights. Another one is that we added a local right to cure period. In Texas, most states have what they call a right to cure, which means that, let's say, you're a few days late on your rent, and then, you go ahead and pay the rent. Technically, under state law, the apartment, the landlord can evict you for violating a term of your lease. There is no kind of right to cure where, you know what I mean?
You can fix the problem.
Exactly. Let's say, again, they give you a notice for having a pet that you're not allowed to have. When in a right to cure context, you have a few days to get rid of that pet. And if you get rid of that pet we provided for a 7-day time period to cure. If you get rid of that pet during those 7 days, then you're okay. Technically, under state law right now, that would not be allowed. If they catch you in any kind of violation, they could evict you. Most landlords won't. That's not, how they operate. Some do, though, and we're trying to make sure that our tenants are protected and that they're able to, to stay in their apartments, especially when, there's a minor violation that is, quickly cured. We don't want them just, kicked out into the street.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to fill us all in today. That's super helpful. Give people understanding what's going on. Before we close, what's the best way for people to connect with you in your office as we continue to, work on all these issues?
Yeah, that's District 4 at austintexas.gov is the best email to reach us at. If you have comments, if you have concerns, that's the best way to get in touch with my office. We monitor that. All the comments go into a spreadsheet that we're tracking all the time, just to see what the folks out there are saying. We're trying to respond individually to comments, to constituent comments, honestly. Like the citywide, if you're not a constituent and you're sending a comment, I'm probably not going to reply to you. We're trying to respond to all the constituent comments and communications as well. But I'll just be honest, that's a lot of incoming emails. We're reading them. We're cataloging them. But where our staff is so tight with everything else that we're doing that we haven't been able to get individual responses out. We're working on getting those, but please understand that they are being read, they are being considered, even if you're not getting an individualized response. So. Great.
Well, thank you again for the time. Thank you everyone for tuning in to listen. Post a recap of this, and then also the information you just shared about how to contact your office so people can follow up later.
Thank you very much, and pleasure to be with you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.